Thanks for tuning in to the Bittersweet Life's Summer in Rome series. Today's show is part one of a two-part series on how to not be scammed while traveling. Don't miss part two by hitting the subscribe button now. Hello, I'm Katie Sewell, and this is A Bittersweet Moment with Tiffany Parks.
Hello and welcome to The Bittersweet Life. I'm Tiffany Parks, and this is your midweek Bittersweet Moment. Now, since we have just this week kicked off our Summer in Rome series, and since a lot of people are in Italy on vacation right now, or in other parts of the world, or perhaps they're about to take off on their vacation, or they're in the middle of planning it, I thought it might be a good idea to talk about how to avoid getting scammed, stolen from, and ripped off in Italy. Now, this is probably going to be the same in lots of other parts of Europe and the world, but I have specific experience with Italy and particularly Rome, so I will talk about things that I know of happening here, but you might be able to use these tips for your travels elsewhere. My idea for this was because I did a wonderful tour for two clients, an older couple, a couple of weeks ago, and just after we finished our tour, I sent them off in the direction of a couple of good restaurants I know, and I heard from them later that day that while they were eating at one of the restaurants I recommended, they were stolen from by someone passing by the restaurant outside on the street. And it was one of those things that is so common, but is also so easy to avoid. And, I've been to the American Embassy many times over the years to renew my passport or get Aurelio's passport. And every single time I've been there, there has been at least one family or one person there having to get an emergency U.S. passport because their passport was stolen. Usually, thieves aren't going after the passport. They're going after the bag and the cash, but the passport might be in there. And this creates such a huge hassle for people. And this was the case for my clients as well the other week. They had to spend all one afternoon and then the first half of the next day at the American Embassy. And it really, not only is a financial drain and a major bummer, but they ended up missing a second tour, missing going to the Colosseum. It's just such a shame when that happens. So I want to, in my small way, try to help other people avoid being ripped off or being stolen from, at least while they're in Rome. So the first thing I can say is never, ever, ever go out with your passport. Now, in Italy, you technically need to have some kind of ID on you, and Italians prefer, police or whatever, they would prefer you to have your passport if you're not Italian, but you can have a photocopy. You do not need to carry the original copy of your passport around with you. So you need to bring your passport, of course, make a photocopy before you leave, put it in your wallet, and leave your passport in the safe of the hotel if you have one. And most hotels will have a safe. That is the best place for it. Whatever you do, don't carry around with you. So at least if you do get robbed, your passport won't be in there. The most common place to be pickpocketed in the city is on the public transport system. So whether it's the metro or the bus, these are things that obviously if you live in a big city or if you're used to traveling, you already know these things. But a lot of people really just aren't that familiar. They aren't that used to this kind of big cities like this, people who come from smaller towns or the country, etc. So like I said, you might feel like this is obvious, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. Men, never carry your wallets in your back pocket. Always keep it in your front pocket. Also, don't put your cell phone, this goes for men and women, don't put your cell phone in your back pocket. I would say never, but especially not when you're on the bus or the metro. These types of transportation are extremely crowded, and it's very easy for people to bump up against you and you don't notice that someone's stealing from you. Pickpockets are, of course, extremely clever and agile, and they're able to get their hands into your pockets without you even feeling it. So never, ever, ever put stuff in a back pocket. That is just an invitation. And even if you're putting stuff in a front pocket, I would say keep your hand in that same pocket while you are on the metro or on the bus. And that is a big deterrent. If you're carrying a purse, what I do is I make sure that it's in front of me. I don't have it slung over on my back. So make sure that while I'm on the bus or the metro, my purse is in front of me. Make sure it's zipped. I mean, my father-in-law says this to me every single time I go out, which is really annoying because I've lived here for almost 18 years. But it is true. Make sure your bag is zipped at all times or closed with a buckle. And what I do is I put my arm right on top, my forearm right on top of the bag. So I'm holding the straps close together with my right hand, and my right forearm is resting on the top of the bag. I know this seems like a lot to think about. For me, I've literally just become accustomed to it. It's a second nature thing for me now. I would never get on the bus or a metro with my purse in any other way. If I'm sitting down on the bus or metro, I've got my bag on my lap, again, closed with my arm over it. I just don't take any chances. And it's something that you have to get used to. If you're used to it already, but you might not be used to those kinds of situations. So it's a good reminder. Same with cell phones. I don't think necessarily your cell phone needs to be tucked away. You could keep it in your hand, but just make sure you're holding on to it. It's not just sort of sitting on your lap or, God forbid, on the seat next to you. Another thing that can happen when traveling in Rome is you might come into the situation where you're purchasing either a metro ticket or a train ticket, even more likely, from a machine. There are big machines in Termini Station where you can buy your train tickets if you don't want to wait in the line to go, to have a ticket agent help you. This can be very convenient. The problem is there are scammers who, quote unquote, help you with your ticket. And they stand there almost as if it's their job, as if they work for the train station, although kind of, if you look at them, it's obvious they don't. Who will say, let me help you. They'll say, where are you going? And they'll hit the buttons and they're really fast. And basically they're trying to distract you enough and get your wallet. So don't ever let anyone who isn't an actual staff member of the train station help you with your ticket. And besides the fact that any train station employee is going to be in uniform, so you can see from that, but they usually won't be helping you if you're at the ticket machine. If you want to be extra sure, just wait in line, get there a little bit earlier, wait in line, and you could make sure that if you go to the ticket desk, you're not going to have this problem. And in general, I just say to people, be aware when people feel like they're too close to you. On the metro or on the bus, this might be unavoidable, but I had a situation once where I was walking up the stairs of a metro station. I was exiting, and this woman just seemed like she was too close to me. And I got this impression because it wasn't so crowded that she had to be right up on me. And I looked down and her hand was in my purse. And I grabbed her hand and wrenched it away and ended up scratching her. And she was very mad at me for accidentally scratching her. But, those are the risks, I suppose, if you're a pickpocket. So just like I said, be aware of your surroundings. Now, you can also be scammed in a restaurant, like happened to my clients. So, number one thing, be careful where you put your bag. Do not ever, under any circumstances, ever put your purse or your backpack or your bag on the ground. I know it can be tempting, especially if it's a heavy backpack. Heavy backpacks are a problem because a purse you can hold on your lap. You can use what I have is a purse hook that I just stick on the edge of the table and I hang my purse from it, really close to me. I just carry it in my purse at all times, so I always have it. I would never hang my purse on the back of a chair because anybody could just come walking along and grab it. And sometimes people come by on scooters. And if you're sitting outside, as we all do in the summertime, on a street, a sidewalk cafe, sometimes someone will come by on a scooter and just reach down and grab your bag. And they'll be gone before you even know it. So never hang your purse on the back of a chair and never put it on the ground. If you really have something that you can't get an extra seat to put it on and it's too big to hold on your lap or hang off the side of the table, the only thing I can say is put it between your legs. I know it's annoying, but it's better than having to, repurchase all of your stuff and lose possibly hundreds of euros and have to get your credit card reissued and all of that nightmare stuff you do not want to have to deal with while you're on vacation. Another thing that can happen at a restaurant, which is a little bit less common these days, is someone coming by and putting something on your table trick. It happened to me once. I was sitting outside at a sidewalk restaurant. A young man came by and put a piece of paper on the table that looked almost like it could have been the bill for the restaurant. And in fact, that's what I thought it was at first. And I kind of looked down and I looked up and I was like kind of confused for a minute. And then I realized what he had done was he had put a piece of paper right down on top of my cell phone. And I, didn't even realize that my phone happened to be lying right there on the table. And what he would have done is he would have picked up the piece of paper and picked up my phone at the same time without me being the wiser. So either try not to leave your phone on the table, but in these days of Instagramming your food, sometimes that's an impossible ask. So just keep your eye on it. And if someone comes by who is, in Italy, a waiter will never come by and leave the bill on the table unless you ask him. That's the only time they ever do that. So just pick up the piece of paper and, throw it at the guy if he tries this. Another thing that might happen is that sometimes people will come up to you on the street with a map, a big open map, and they will open it up and ask you for directions. And meanwhile, when you're trying to be helpful, their hand is underneath this map and inside your bag. And you are totally distracted and you can't see it because the big map is in the way. Another thing that sometimes they do is they take a piece of cardboard and they write on it something like, help me, I have kids at home, I need money, something like that, a call for help. But they put it out at you. They put it straight into your sort of space and then their hand is underneath it. Another very unfortunate thing that people will do, and I've seen this with my own eyes many times in line for the Vatican museums, is someone will have a baby or they will either have a real baby or a fake baby. But either way, this real or fake baby is strapped to them in such a way that they don't have to hold on to it. And there's a big blanket covering the arm that appears to be holding on to the baby. And so they will come up asking for charity with their right hand and with their left hand that looks like it's holding on to a baby, but you can't actually see it. You just assume that the left hand is holding the baby. That hand is in your bag. So be very aware of these things. Also, a lot of times people will work in teams, in pairs. And this is what happened to my clients the other day. There was someone who came and distracted them while someone else was on the ground getting their bag. So beware of anybody who seems to be distracting you. This happened to me once too. I mean, honestly, I've been robbed or attempted to be robbed so many times. I've had cell phones stolen out of my purse, I would say minimum of 4 times, minimum. Like that, and I didn't catch the guy. A couple times I remember distinctly being on the bus and just being like, no, when you realize it's gone. It's also happened to my mom a couple of times here in Rome. What happened one time that luckily they were not successful is that I was on a bus. It was strangely almost empty. And I was standing up and a guy in a huge backpack was standing in front of me with his back to me. And automatically when someone has their back to you, you don't see them as a threat because you're like, well, this person is facing the other way. What could they possibly do? But this guy was standing really close to me, and too close for how empty the bus was. And he leaned back like the bus was turning, and he was acting like he'd lost balance. And he was leaning back like he was tipping over, leaning towards me. And I was being like, hey, dude, get off. And I looked down, and I was holding a very small purse in my right hand, hanging down by my thigh. And I knew that it had been closed, but it had been opened and there was a hand in it and it had my wallet in the hand. And I just batted this other second person away, kicked them off the bus. Luckily, no damage was done, but I can't even count the number of times. If you ride a bike in Rome, this is something else that happened to me. I had a purse in the basket, the front basket of my bike, and like an idiot, I didn't listen to the advice of the people around me and put the handles of the purse, the straps of the purse around the handlebars of the bike. I was being lazy and I didn't do it, and I was riding my little bike and on a street that was pedestrian only, so I wasn't expecting it. A guy on a scooter drove past me and just grabbed that purse right out of the basket of my bike. That was so traumatic because not only, of course, my phone and my wallet, but I was also in the process of getting my Italian carta di soggiorno or permesso di soggiorno for the very first time. And I had all of my documents in there because I was on my way to go to some government building to put in my papers, and this created a nightmare. My passport was in there as well. So it was a huge, huge nightmare for me. So if you're riding a bike, put the straps of the purse around the handlebars of your bike. Even if it seems silly, just do it. If you're going to a nightclub, this happened to me too. See, this is all personal experience I'm giving you. If you go to a nightclub for ladies, make sure you have one of those little tiny bags that goes around your neck, because I know a lot of women don't want to have to hold their purse when they're dancing. Totally understandable. Don't do what I did, which was I found a big chair, an armchair that was in the corner of this nightclub, and I just hid my purse behind it, thinking no one would go back there. Of course, the purse was still there, but my wallet, my phone, and my iPod were gone. And I loved that wallet too. So don't do that. Make sure you have a little tiny bag with just the bare necessities in it that you can hang around your shoulder or your chest and not really feel while you're dancing.
And we're going to leave it there for now. That is Tiffany Parks, and next week she'll be teaching you how to avoid being scammed in Italy, which is certainly something that can happen too. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss part 2. Our intern is Allison Kramer. I'm Katie Sewell. This is the very beginning of our summer in Rome. We'll be taking you out on the streets of Italy all summer long, or all winter long, depending on where you live in the world, but all the way until September. So if you have a friend who loves Italy, or you happen to encounter somebody in the next few weeks that is planning a trip to Italy, maybe you even know a student who's planning on studying abroad somewhere next year, tell them about the show. We appreciate so much when you spread the word. And if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we might read it on the show. Like this one from Nancy, who writes, I am loving this podcast. The backlog of episodes pre-corona is totally priceless. If you miss the days when you could travel easily or even just make plans to follow your dreams, whatever they may be, the pre-corona episodes will save you. You can leave a review very easy. Just look for the words write a review when you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts. Talk to you next week. Bye.